really kept the traffic under control, especially for a major city. But that's also the main reason it isn't higher on this list, because it's so spread out that it kind of just feels like a giant suburbia in most parts. Sure, there's friendly people, delicious Mexican food, all 4 major professional sports teams, and some fun areas in Tempe, Scottsdale, and downtown, but Phoenix still lacks a lot of that pizzazz and culture that makes other cities fun and unique. Number 9. New York City. I know a lot of you are probably commenting,
"What? New York stinks! How the heck did it make this list? It's a liberal hellhole!"
Well, apart from the high cost of living, New York's actually a really great city to live in. Contrary to popular belief, the total crime and murder rates are well below the national average here, making it one of the safest cities in the United States, despite the fact that there's nearly 20 million people. Speaking of which, New York is a big city. I mean, heck, it's the biggest city in America. And for a lot of people, it's just way too overwhelming. But this also means there's always new restaurants, parks, museums, shows, art galleries, and shops to explore. Between Manhattan, Brooklyn, and all of the unique neighborhoods in each of the boroughs, there's so much going on, you couldn't possibly scratch the surface, even if you spent your entire life here. And with the best public transportation and walkability in America, it's safe to say you'll never need to drive or worry about traffic again. But like I mentioned earlier, it does come with a steep price tag. In fact, the median home price is currently $653,000, and it's incredibly difficult to even rent a studio apartment for under $2,000 a month. But hey, at least it's still cheaper than LA or San Francisco. Number 8. Houston, Texas. Unlike New York, which is currently losing residents, Houston has one of the fastest growing metro populations in the nation. And you know how they say everything's bigger in Texas? Well, apparently so are the paychecks. The diverse economy here hosts a variety of high-paying job opportunities in the energy, aerospace, manufacturing, distribution, and medical industries, so the median household income is a whopping $64,000. To make things even better, though, you actually get to keep most of it since there's no state income tax and the median home price is only $190,000. Now, if that doesn't leave you saying, yeehaw! Maybe the incredibly friendly residents, amazing culinary scene, great schools and universities, vivacious nightlife, and museum district featuring 19 museums in a 12-block radius will. It's really not a surprise that nearly 7 million people call the Houston area home. I mean, there's something for everyone. But all those people also create some of the worst traffic in the country, since Houston is very spread out with awful public transportation, so basically everyone has to drive. And don't even get me started on how hot and humid it gets here in the summer. Ugh, I'm starting to sweat just thinking about it. Number 7. Denver, Colorado. If you're looking to join the Mile High Club, the Mile High City might just be the easiest place to do it. But for everyone else, Denver's another one of the fastest growing cities in America, especially among millennials. In fact, just since 2010, the metro population has increased by nearly 20% to reach 2.93 million, 2/3 of which are under the age of 44. And I know that's technically below 3 million, but like I said earlier, Denver still feels bigger than even a lot of other cities on this list. That's because it has everything a big city could ask for. The best economy in the nation, professional sports teams in all 4 major sports, amazing concert venues, a thriving nightlife, an expanding microbrewery and culinary scene, and we can't forget some of the most amazing nature in the country is just a short drive away. I mean, sure, it is expensive with a median home price of $455,000, but that shouldn't be much of a roadblock considering all of the amazing job opportunities. With a 2.3% unemployment rate and median household income of almost $69,000, there are good jobs literally everywhere. Denver's really one of those places that once you move there, it's hard to leave. Well, unless you hate being landlocked, in which case... Number 6. Boston, Massachusetts. Beantown, aka my hometown, and the place that literally feels like a living history book every corner you turn. If it weren't for the insane cost of living, Boston would have probably made the top 3. But at least it has some of the highest paying jobs in America, in addition to boasting one of the lowest unemployment rates at just 2%.
What? 2%?
Yeah. Between biotech, robotech, engineering, finance, medicine, and of course higher education, the median household income income here is nearly $86,000 a year. And when you aren't working, this city has some of the best leisure activities as well. You'll find amazing sports teams in all 4 major sports, world-class museums, concert halls, and theaters, tons of green spaces and parks, beautiful beaches within an hour drive, some of the best seafood in the nation, and like I mentioned earlier, literally everything here is a historical marker or site. There really is no other place in the country with this much history. The whole city's practically a museum. And similar to history, education is everywhere in Boston too. The Boston suburbs are actually home to the best public schools in the United States, in addition to some of the best colleges and universities in the world. From a hip downtown scene to each of the charming, character-filled neighborhoods and suburbs, you can find it all in the capital of Massachusetts. Well, as long as you're also willing to deal with the worst traffic in the nation. But then again, most of the city's really walkable and bikeable, and public transportation's great too. So you don't technically need to drive. Number 5, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And just like that, we're back to being landlocked. Not to mention cold. Yeah, if you thought Boston was cold, Minneapolis would say, hold my beer. It gets frigid here. But hey, at least the traffic isn't as bad. And the cold also isn't stopping business either because the economy is currently sizzling hot. In fact, the Twin Cities are one of the best places to start your career with a median household income of nearly $77,000. In a lot of ways, Minneapolis is actually really similar to Boston. There's a huge tech scene, lots of smarty pants, beautiful forests and nature every which way, great universities and hospitals, amazing job opportunities with 16 Fortune 500 companies headquartered here, and it's a super liberal city in an otherwise conservative state. But unlike Boston, Minneapolis is actually really affordable, and there's an overall better quality of life for most of the residents here. Plus, it's one of the most well-planned cities, which is quite the contrast to the mess they call streets in Boston. Minneapolis was actually ranked as the most bike-friendly city for 2019, and it's also the cleanest major city in America. I could go on about the excellent park system, fun and free museums, diverse selection of delicious restaurants, and how all the people that move here love it so much, they never leave. But I'll save it for another video. Number 4. Dallas, Texas. I know this is going to cause some controversy, but yes, despite the slightly more expensive cost of living, Dallas is a better place to live than Houston. Now, don't get me wrong, they're both great cities, but Dallas has a much more walkable urban downtown with tons of unique neighborhoods, and there's another mid-sized city, Fort Worth, to check out right next door if you're in the mood for a more traditional Texan vibe. There are a lot of reasons the Dallas-Fort Worth area is the most moved-to metro in the United States, with around 150,000 new residents moving here every year. Some people love the lively uptown and downtown scenes featuring the largest arts district in America and tons of fun music venues and eateries. Others come for the great schools and community. But most people move here for the booming economy. In fact, Dallas has the fastest growing job market in the country, primarily focusing in tech, finance, and defense. Despite all this, the Big D is still really affordable, with a median home price of just $223,000. And there's no state income tax. But just like with most Sunbelt cities, public transportation is basically non-existent. So you're gonna have to drive in a lot of traffic. Number 3, Seattle, Washington. Before I say anything else, let's just get that whole rain myth out of the way. Despite what you might have heard, it honestly doesn't rain that much here. And when it does, it's usually more of a quick, inconvenient drizzle. So now that that's out of the way, did you know Seattle's been the fastest growing city over the past decade, with the population increasing by nearly 3% each year? And I'm surprised that number isn't even higher, since Seattle ranks amongst the top 3 cities in pretty much every economical category. Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing, Starbucks, and tons of other Fortune 500 companies headquartered here create one of the best economies in the nation. I mean, the unemployment rate's under 2%, and the median household income is nearly $94,000. Outside of San Francisco, there is no other city with as many good-paying jobs as Seattle. But things aren't all work and no play either. There is so much to do here between all the unique neighborhoods, museums, art galleries, concerts, innovative bars and restaurants, and the seemingly infinite amount of coffee shops. Oh, and a lot of people don't know this, but Seattle's surrounded by some of the most gorgeous nature in America. Number 2. Tampa, Florida. If the Seattle clouds aren't your thing, maybe the sunny subtropical climate of Tampa is. It sure seems like a lot of people love it, given that 150 new residents move to the area every day. And before you say something like,
"Oh, it's Florida. I bet they're all just retirees. It must be boring,"
you should probably know that the median age here is only 34 years old, and it's one of the top spots for millennials to relocate to. A big reason for that, affordability and jobs. Despite all the recent growth, the cost of living here is still incredibly affordable, with a median home value of just $245,000. And sure, wages are still lagging, but there's also no state income tax, and the economy's really starting to take off, especially in healthcare, finance, and tech. And best of all, even though you're in Florida, you don't really have to worry about hurricanes, since Tampa rarely gets hit by them. So feel free to enjoy all of the amusement parks, gorgeous beaches, tasty Cuban food, popular art scene, and hip downtown, all with the perfect year-round temperature, usually staying in the 70s to 80s. And if all that somehow gets boring, St. Pete's right next door with its own charm, and Disney World's only an hour drive away.